Hey everyone, John Henry here, SlingshotFutures.com, and welcome to the Daily Futures and Crypto Market Outlook, where we take a look at our favorite futures and crypto markets and formulate an attack plan for tomorrow's trading. Tomorrow being the 14th of the month, working our way towards the middle of the month already, and, well, we had a little bit of movement today. It took a little while, it was pretty slow to start off. But when things started picking up, it moved pretty well. Just don't pay attention to the index markets because those were a sleeper. But everything else was working pretty good movement. Now, before we jump on in, as always, make sure to swing on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down, and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to let you sign up for our email list so that you'll be notified every time one of these videos comes out. Along with that, in the newsletter itself, we talk about all kinds of different stuff. Obviously, the video going over futures and cryptocurrencies. But in the email, we also go over stocks, options, anything that's really standing out of interest, so it's a great thing to have your hands on if you don't already. Along with that, make sure to click on the live trade room subscription and trial info, where you can sign up for a 3-day trial for us in the room. It's a way that you can sit down with us for a couple days, see the live trade room, see our screens, see the trades that we're looking at taking, and just kind of see how we navigate the markets. You can ask questions, and it's just an overall really good environment to put yourself in to kind of see if it fits what you're looking for. Now, if you join as a full-fledged VIP member, you of course get the live trade room as part of the package. Don't forget to check out some of the discounts that we have going on there. But if you do decide that you just want the live trade room, you do have the weekly and monthly subscriptions for that as well. Now, taking a look at the euro, and again, all of the markets except the index markets really moved well. We had the euro, gold, crude all over the place, and then the S&P, well, they didn't do a whole lot, but the euro catching a big drop to the downside. Now, most of the morning, the euro didn't do much. They had a hard time really getting anywhere. It was just mostly kind of a chop and slop fest, but when they started breaking down, they got a little bit more aggressive, and then they paused, and then a little more aggressive, and then a pause, and they just kept it going over and over and over again. So a huge amount of bear pressure working its way lower on the euro, and really I'm looking for this to continue, but I don't want to sell too far down. We have open objectives to the downside sitting at 18,503, major objective now that we've fallen below that big 1.2 thousand level and looking for a little bit further movement to the downside. I want to find an area to sell that is slightly better priced. Right, we know that the downside movement is obviously taking control, at least in the short term, but we don't want to sell too close to the bottom either, because then we just get stuck holding the bag during a correction. We don't want that to happen either. So we're looking for selling pressure at really at around 1900 to be honest, but 19,015 looks pretty good, and if they really want to give us a gift and move all the way up to 19,220, looks awesome as well for shorting opportunities to push the market down and finish the objective off to 18,503. Over on gold, for the most part, relatively range-bound again to start the day off. They had a big spike to kick the day off, and they never were able to get back above that. They contested the lows quite a bit, and then it finally broke down. Now, one thing of interest that I always like keeping an eye on are whenever you have these big volatile candles like that, does it lead us to any type of area of interest? We can take this level down, we can see, well, that one really didn't help a whole lot. Let's take it down again, right? And we're basically just creating deviations lower to find if the market wanted to use that area as support or resistance. And we can see that they did kind of use a couple deviations lower, but not really much. But it is still a good practice to kind of pick out those areas of interest and deviate them lower to see if it is something that we might want to keep our eyes on. In this case, it doesn't look like they're really paying much attention to it, but we do still have some downside objectives open on gold, just like we had on the euro. Now, gold's downside objective, first one is going to be at 22.9. That's a pretty big one, actually. And then a little bit further, if they really want to push, 19.1 below that. So overall, the bears still in control of the market, looking for continuation of the downside. We have a monster drop lower, and we're consolidating. I can't really say that I blame them. It does kind of look like a flag. We have the bottom of the flag looks pretty straightforward. The highs, you could mark it up here. It doesn't fit that well. It almost fits better as a wedge, so that's the way that I have it drawn up. But I think either way you mark it, you should be okay. Now notice one big thing that we're running directly into right now is this monthly support at 25.4. That is causing a lot of trouble for gold. If gold's going to continue lower, they need to break through this, and they're going to need to do it with some conviction. You know, one big candle down, not enough. We need a big candle or even just a string of small ones it doesn't really matter, but either way, this level of support has me nervous. I do not want to sell directly into this level. I want to sell away from it so that I have room where if it does want to get stuck, at least we can make something on the trade. So I'm looking for some selling pressure at 28.9. Back up towards those highs, and maybe just to reclaim some of this transition into a range. Go back to the highs of the range. The lows look really well. We haven't confirmed the highs yet, so maybe a test of that 28.9 or higher, maybe a trap a little bit above it, would be that area of interest to push the market down. Either way, though, still looking for 22.9 and 19.1 below us, but looking for a slightly better price to sell into, so we're not selling directly into this massive monthly support level that is in the way. On crude oil, man, grindy kind of describes the last 2 or 3 hours here, but very bullish, right? Huge amount of bull momentum to the upside, even though we had very negative numbers come out for the reports, right? The crude oil inventories were today. The inventories were forecasted at a build of 3 million and some change. Yesterday's API report was showing a build of 6 million and some change, and we came out at around 5.5. So 5.5 million on the build is a very bearish number, and yet we're still seeing some big rallying to the upside. Now, that could just be pre-positioning where sellers are building into this move up, looking for a fundamental fall over the next several days. It could also have something to do with the fact that the volume is beginning to roll over already on crude oil to the next month. That could be basically them shifting their purchases and sells over to the next month to try to get in as early as possible and hang on for a while. Either way, though, we have a bull market on our hands, and we really I really don't want to go against this now as strong as it is. There are some clues that we may be a little overdone. Big blow off on the highs, very grindy, inconsistent price action showing that we are likely going to get a pullback at some point, and big objectives above us at 49.52 are very nearly tested and complete. We do also have the bull channel rising higher, which we are above, which is another sign of potential exhaustion. So everything is pointing to a pullback. I'm looking for the pullback to begin probably in the overnight session to drive the market down to monthly support at 49.16, preferably even a little bit further to 49.07 to 48.92. Those are the areas that I'm going to be looking to buy off of, and preferably, you know, looking for that to either transition into a range or bounce back up towards the highs. I'm really not anticipating, though, them breaking out of the highs again. They've already expended all of that ammo. So likely what I'm looking for instead is for them to push down into those areas of support, right? Find a rally back up to about where they kind of began that choppiness, and then look for a turn back off of that. So I'm not looking for a huge buy by any means, but I'm looking for a short-term potential opportunity for buying at around that 07 to 92 area for a bounce back up. And then finally, over on the S&P is the only, well, the index markets really, for the most part, didn't do a whole lot today. Just a lot of back and forth, chop and slop. Very kind of part and parcel for what we've been seeing for the last, probably the latter part of yesterday going into today. Now, we are still on a very strong bull rip away from the market, right? We opened with that gap up on Sunday and just haven't stopped rallying to the upside. Record high after record high, and just continuously smashing the highs. Seems like the index markets are taking some notes from the Bitcoin markets here with just this persistence on pushing into the highs. But overall, you know, the S&P is still very range bound. We are obviously looking to be buyers. I don't want to sell this. The only selling that I want to be doing is with profit targets at the top. So I'm looking to buy into this, and the area of interest that I'm looking to buy, we do have some level of kind of really just support grinding its way through the range that we're seeing, 91.5. We have a lot of swing highs coming into play that also was used as swing lows along the way. So that is a pretty big area of interest as sort of an intermediary low buy at around 91.5. If they want to pull back all the way, though, I would absolutely love to find 89.25 to buy into to shove the market back up towards the highs. The high of the range, relatively untested so far. At this point in time, 95.25 is about all we have to work with. That may end up being a little bit lower, but for now, that's really all we can do. Again, we're in a range. Buy low, sell high, stay out of the middle, and right now we're just kind of cycling off the highs and kind of in the middle. So I'm waiting for a pullback in the overnight session to buy into the lows for another attempted rally at the upside. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Now, tomorrow's news, it's another light calendar of news tomorrow at 8:30 out of the U.S. We have the core CPI month over month for August, and that's coming out at a forecast of 0.2%. That's it. So a relatively light news calendar going into tomorrow's trading. Not necessarily a bad thing, but with all of the movement that we've seen today, we might have a flip-flop where the euro, the gold, and the crude markets go sideways and slow as they kind of digest all of the movement today, and the index markets might have their chance at a breakout tomorrow, given that they really didn't do anything at all today. So, I mean, for me, I don't care. As long as something moves, we can work to trade with. But, you know, that's kind of the way that it looks right now. A lot of times when you have those big moving days, the market needs to pause for a little bit so they can digest all of the new info. Now, heading on over to the cryptocurrency side of things, we have the Bitcoin market catching a little bit of a pullback. We are in full sale territory. We're not quite all the way down to that big sale, right? The blue light special at around 3,500. But looking for some potential continuation to the downside still. It doesn't look like the sellers are done yet. They really aren't proving much at, you know, a possible major downturn or anything like that. Doesn't quite look like it. Looks like a wedge that is trying to work its way down, and to me, I think it looks like a pretty good sale price down here at around 3,600 or lower. We're not quite there yet, but we aren't too far away, so make sure to keep an eye on that Bitcoin market. We may have some of those potential longer-term buys right around the corner for us to jump on in. Bitcoin Cash, still waiting for a deeper collection of movement, but we are catching a little bit more of a range bottom coming through here with that further confirmation of the bounce right there. With this range bottom being put in, you know, we could draw this on the highs, and it does somewhat look like a little bit of a channel with a really nasty looking top. It could also be that if we zoom really far out, they may be trying to get some form of a wedge going across the highs. It doesn't look very good, but we're at least attempting to find some support in here. Now, we still haven't had the dip down to 0.11, 0.1, you know, like I would really enjoy seeing. But for the most part, you know, that 12.5 area doesn't look terrible. We've already had some really strong bullishness off of there, and looking for a possible continuation bounce for another move back up wouldn't be out of the question. So a retest of 12.5 could be an overnight hold for some buying opportunity. Over on Ethereum, still grinding down. We had a quick snap lower down to 68, and we're just still above, floating above that big area of interest. 65 is really what I'm looking for, and we've got a little bit of a ways to go before we start hitting something like that. It's kind of the same situation as Bitcoin Cash, where we have a little bit of a rising support, but for the most part, this feels more like a range to me with a flat bottom. So I would love to see that 6,500 at this point in time, though. I think the Ethereum market is in a little bit of a holding pattern until we get a dip down into those better prices. Litecoin, kind of the same situation, but a nice dip down into that previous low. We didn't quite trap the low. I would like to see a trap below that low towards 15. We've been talking about 15 for a couple days now, but for the most part, well, they're coming close, right? If we were to just kind of look at the wicks off of this previous low, would be the next best option. Creates a little bit of a buy zone, and so far they've been respecting it pretty well. So because of that, we are in buy mode right now on Litecoin, looking for a lift. I would still prefer to see 15 for the bigger purchases, or at least the opportunities to buy in at cheaper prices. But for the most part, Litecoin is in the buying zone for longer term buyers looking to hang on for a while, and it's looking pretty good for a possible trap low and a kind of a retake of those highs. So Litecoin looking kind of shifting gears a little bit into the bull side territory. Zcash catching a beautiful bounce off of the lows. Again, not really breaking the lows, testing the lows though, and if you were to draw that up as a bottom zone, huge amount of support coming out of there. So beautiful buy off of that if you were around to take that. It's pretty early in the morning, kind of mid-morning session. You may have been trading something else, but either way, we have a monster rally to the upside, and I'm looking for at least a little bit more continuation to the upside on maybe this next candle, or maybe the next few candles. You might see a little more pullback, but overall, the anticipation is that they try to get up towards around that 54 and a quarter to 55 area, I think looks the most obvious in terms of support and resistance. So those are going to be the major objectives to retest to the upside, and it looks like we have a short-term buying opportunity here on Zcash. And then finally, on our side markets, EMC squared. I love it. Beautiful name for it, Einsteinium. Now, Einsteinium, EMC squared, beautiful rally to the upside, monster bullishness coming out, and just a really shallow pullback, not really a whole lot going on. The sellers try to take it back, likely more on profit taking, and the buyers have ever since been inside for a move back up. So everything is looking really strong for them to attempt those highs again. I like the move for potential bullishness from around 1200 and up, but I would really like to see a potential dip on the lows, right? Get back down to that 1055, 1060 area, find some trapping around those lows for a rocket back up towards the highs. Either way though, Einsteinium or EMC2 for your charting platforms looking very, very strong to the upside, and I'm looking for continuation. So that's going to do it for all of the outlooks on all of the markets. As always, when we're approaching these markets, especially when they're as volatile as we're seeing today, we have to be on our guard for potential flip-flopping, right? Like we were just talking about a little while ago, the euro, gold, crude, very explosive day type. A lot of times they got to rest a little while and kind of, catch back up to what's been going on. The S&P and the index markets, on the other hand, have been very slow. It may be their chance tomorrow to start breaking out. Either way, though, make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and it'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.